Hey, fans of Subject Found, Who Killed Julie, Diary of a Madman, Horrible Writing. This is Paul Sading, the creator of those shows, the host of Horrible Writing, with a special announcement. This special episode is for a new show I have called The Stories We Tell. There are 5 episodes out currently as of August 2019. What is The Stories We Tell? Well, it's a community effort at Flash Fiction of all genres, of all voices. Each month, we hold the story contest with 3 criteria, and all the members in the Horrible Writing Writer Support Group on Facebook come up with their own story and put it up in a contest to be selected for the show. Horror, sci-fi, romance, all sorts of spec fiction. It's all there to be found in the stories we tell. I want to give you the entire first episode so you can check it out. Definitely give a listen to all the episodes. They get much longer. By episode 5, we're over an hour long of flash fiction of all genres and, again, all voices. You can find the stories we tell on any place you get your podcasts. You might not be able to find it easily since there are a couple shows called The Stories We Tell, so it might be easier to just simply search for my name, Paul Sading, S-A-T-I-N-G. Give a listen to this first episode and come join us over at The Stories We Tell. We'd love to have you. After all, these are the stories of us. These are the stories we tell.
Welcome to The Stories We Tell, a storytelling podcast for all voices. Each month, the Horrible Writing Writers Support Group on Facebook conducts a writing challenge with a prompt and 3 specific criteria. The stories you are about to hear were selected by a panel of judges to represent that writing community's work. These are stories of fiction. These are the stories of us. These are the stories we tell.
Welcome to the first episode of The Stories We Tell, a storytelling podcast for all voices. I'm Paul Sading, the creator and the host of the show, along with wonderful author Natalie Ackett, who you're going to hear from in a second. First, we'd like to kind of tell you what this podcast is and what it's going to be about. Long ago, I started a writing podcast called Horrible Writing, and I slowly built a community of up-and-coming writers around that podcast and the associated Facebook page. The Facebook group is incredibly supportive. It's all about lifting each other up. In one month, Natalie Ackett posted about doing a writing challenge monthly to help each other out, to challenge ourselves, to support ourselves, to critique each other, and to show each other that what we have is something special. And that bloomed into an idea for a podcast. I approached Natalie and asked her if she would be willing to do that, to take the challenge that she had created and allow me to put it into podcast form so we can feature the variety, the diversity in that group of storytellers. And she was totally down with it, and I was grateful. And that's when The Stories We Tell was born. For me, this show is about celebrating writers, celebrating creatives, literary, spec fiction, poetry, memoir, it doesn't matter. The written word is beautiful. I love prose. And I love people who can do it well. Those of you who listen to Horrible Writing, you know I'm pretty self-effacing. And I like to pick on myself because I don't take myself too seriously. I can't. I love writing. It's a passion. It's something I have to do. And by finding the beauty and accepting the fact that none of us are perfect writers and celebrating that, supporting each other through the highs and especially the lows, I have found a deep, deep sense of fulfillment. This podcast is an extension of that. It's going to come out once a month, and I hope you'll join us each and every single month. Those of you who are writers, maybe you could be on this show in the future as well. You'd have to join us over on Facebook. Just search for the Horrible Writing Writers Support Group, and you can come join us there, take part in our monthly challenges, and maybe, just maybe, you'll appear on this show. Now, with no further ado, I'd like you to meet Natalie and kind of understand what this first episode's challenge was, what it was about, and what the writers had to do. So, over to you, Natalie.
Every month, the Horrible Writing Writers Support Group offers a Reveloquent Challenge. The idea behind the challenge is to take the 3 criteria and up to 500 words and write the best story that you possibly can. The best stories from our challenge are featured here in this podcast. This month, the writing criteria were: 1. The words pumpkin spice or one of its derivatives. 2. The colors of the season. Please include at least one of the following: orange, yellow, red, brown. 3. A haunting. This doesn't necessarily mean a ghost. Take the idea of things that are haunting and run with it.
Now, before we get into the stories, I just want to remind everybody that we are not professional podcasters. Some of us have gear and software, like I do, to do podcasting. Most of us don't. These stories were recorded, narrated in a variety of ways, all the way from professional setting down to a smartphone in a closet. It's not about the sound quality. It's about the quality of the story and giving exposure to a variety of voices in this medium. So, with that being said, I want to kick us off with our first story. Story from me. It's called Fallow. Enjoy. Charles inhaled the brisk tinge in the air. In years past, it would have refreshed him. No longer. Now, it was merely a sign that winter was coming. Against the cold, he still sweated at the grindstone, sharpening his axe. The work was never done. Not when you had to prepare a farm for the long, dark months ahead. A hint of pumpkin spice wafted across the yard. Celeste was baking again. Something he would never eat. She wasn't baking for him anyway. The grindstone screeched against the axe blade, a pleasant sound. There was something visceral about the sound of metal on stone. It was his livelihood, an extension of himself, a part of him he needed to get back again. An hour of losing himself in his work, Charles stood and crossed the yard to the house, his feet mashing the amber and red maple leaves that had floated to the wet ground weeks before. The season of death was upon them. The season of death never left them. It would stay now. Charles realized that. Celeste didn't. Where his world had never been the same, her routine never changed. He lost a year somewhere, abandoned in the fog of anger and despair. But Celeste maintained her daily rituals, doing the things she'd always done, the things she would always do. The screen door slammed against the house when he lost his grip in a stiff autumn breeze. He whispered a curse, hoping it hadn't distracted her. She needed the solidity her routine provided, but he also didn't want to draw her attention. He didn't know what to say anymore. In the past, words failed him, a reminder he could not save anyone he cared for. The scent of the spices was stronger inside the house, assaulting his nose, invading him. "Is your work done?" Celise asked, not turning from her mixing bowl. "Almost." "You'll need to hurry," she answered, the whisk scraping the sides of the bowl as she churned faster. "Lots to do." "There's always lots to do. But that doesn't mean the rest of us have to wait for you, Charles. Dinner waits for no one, and neither does Abby. Not when she's hungry." At the mention of his daughter's name, Charles's throat constricted the air of life, so copious, cutting it off. He wanted to grab Celise by the shoulders, to shake her out of her stupor. But her denial was stronger than his will to help her. Instead, Charles turned away and stepped back out into the fading day. From his porch, he surveyed the acres of empty earth. He was behind on planting the new crop. They would pay for that next year. But Charles wasn't sure it was worth the effort anymore. Maybe it was time to give up on the fallow fields, just as he had his mourning wife, the woman still haunted by the ghost of a child taken too early. As always, of course, if you're interested in my writing, my books, my other podcasts, you can find all that information over on paulsading.com. Now let's get to our next story, from Astrid Jeff, narrated by Astrid Jeff, called Pumpkin Spice.
Pumpkin Spice by Astrid Jeff. A murder had happened here, the body parts spread around in a gruesome pattern. Jack used his foot to nudge the closest one, his wrinkled face scrunched up in disgust. His left hand involuntarily moved through his hair.
"I've got no time for this,"
he mumbled.
"Not today."
He crashed down the memory that was trying to surface.
Not yet, he thought. Not yet.
He quickly looked around for any sign of the killer and picked up his pace. It didn't take him long to cross the rest of the park towards the local bakery. The smell of pumpkin-spiced goodies assaulted his nostrils, and he firmly stepped down on the memory again. Too soon to break down.
"Morning, Jack,"
the man behind the counter said, trepidation obvious beyond the surface of his words.
"I'll get your order."
He disappeared before Jack could nod. Soon after, the door opened again, but it was a woman instead of a man. "Here you go, a favorite." Silent voice, dripping with the sadness her shining eyes couldn't conceal. "Are you around today?" He couldn't reply because the memories, those cursed memories, were threatening to overwhelm him. This time, they almost won. Without saying anything, he turned around. Outside, he nearly started running. Carnations in one hand and the baker's treat in the other, he hurried to another side of the park. 10 minutes later, it felt like a lifetime. He could finally drop to his knees in front of her grave. The flowers went onto the stone, the pastry next to them out of the box. He dropped a handful of cat food on the ground beside him. A cat appeared, eating contentedly. Stroking the cat's back, Jack spoke softly towards the grave, a hoarseness in his voice which wasn't usually there.
"He still doesn't want to come home with me, Emmy. I found some colorful feathers earlier, though. Red, orange, green. So he's taking care of himself. But he misses you immensely. So do I."
Those last 3 words came out in a croak. He let the haunting memories finally take him. You have been listening to Pumpkin Spice, narrated by Astrid Jeff, written by Astrid Jeff. You can find more about Astrid Jeff and her work on astridjeff.com. Her podcast, Nadek, is available on all podcast channels.
You can find Astrid Jeff over at astridjeff.com or on Twitter at astridjeff. Our third story is from the person who made me start that Facebook group. She'd been a listener of Horrible Writing, enjoyed the show, and took her about a year to make me start the Facebook group, but she persevered. And thanks to SL Barron, we now have an absolutely wonderful group that has spawned this podcast. No further ado, I give you The Spirit of Autumn by author S.L. Barron.
An overpowering aroma of pumpkin spice assaulted Teddy as she opened her front door. Every year, why is it always pumpkin bloody spice? Can it never be cider with cinnamon or something? Every year. She set her keys on the hook by the door as her phone chimed. A groan left her as she opened the photo in the text message. And so it begins. Teddy's favorite mug took center stage in the backyard grass, resting by Jillian's Ugg boot-clad feet, crossed at the ankles and surrounded by a semicircle of strategically placed red and yellow leaves. She rolled her eyes as she read the message. Happy October 1st, Teddy Bear! Hashtag so blessed, hashtag pumpkin spice, hashtag October, hashtag fall, hashtag autumn lover, hashtag rainbow leaves, hashtag my favorite time of the year. I really used to like fall before I met you, Jillian. The chill in the air, the crunch of leaves under my shoes. I really did like it, Teddy mumbled, taking in her surroundings. Jillian had taken it upon herself to decorate the small house in her typical over-enthusiastic way. Jack-o'-lanterns surrounded the feet of a cheerful-looking scarecrow who had taken up residence by the living room fireplace. Garlands of fox light brown leaves wrapped around the spindles of the staircase, bringing all the glory of the outdoors in. Where the hell does she get all this stuff? It's not like she goes out, Teddy mused, wandering farther into her home. A centerpiece of gourds and thick orange candles sat in the center of the kitchen table. I swear this is the year I'm going to do it. I swear. Jillian popped up in front of her, knit scarf wrapped around her neck, toboggan covering her hair, Uggs pulled on over black leggings. What are you going to do? She said, her voice raising like a valley girl at the end of her question. I'd say kill you, but... I'm already dead? Jillian shrugged, a huge grin bringing the corners of her mouth up. That gas leak beat you to it by 3 years. Teddy's mouth quirked. Exorcism might be a promising venture. Ah, Teddy Bear, we go through this every year. You know I love autumn, and you never end up calling Father Segru. The end. This has been the short story The Spirit of Autumn by S.L. Barron. You can find her on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as author S.L. Barron. Thank you so much for listening.
You can find S.L. Barron over on Facebook at author S.L. Barron, Twitter, same thing, and Instagram, believe it or not, the same thing. The next story is written by Dohai. Some of you who are fans of mine over at Diary of a Madman will kind of already know Dohai's writing. He wrote the entire second season of that show. He's also doing some other things on the side, which we'll highlight in the future. Narrated by Astrid Jeff, I give you Fall for You, written by Dohai.
Fall for you. It was fall when I fell for you. When you came into this world, my favorite season gifted me all my dreams come true. Your smile beamed, warmer than the setting sun, as it tried to grab the clouds with its dying light, clinging for dear life.
Your bright red hair put autumnal leaves to shame, so that fall and bow to you. Your laugh, sweeter than the whispering winds, foretelling of a long dark winter soon to come. Your eyes, brighter than the stars above, even they fell for you. Was but 2 seasons we shared our love, before the grip wrenched you from my bosom so many years too soon. That little box was meant for shoes, not for you, my love. Above you now nothing but sod, atop me only cloud. Snowdrops and teardrops adorn your tumulus, a veil of frost your shroud. The seasons come and go without you, but there's no warmth or glow. Perpetual winter in my heart makes it beat so slow. Once more you come to haunt me, Demeter. Once more our paths doth cross. I hunger not for your splendor, this pale spectre of a shining light, nor the fruits of past years' toil. I hunger for your trial, that you seem fit to wrest my love from my arms, as in a jealous rage at his beauty. Apollo's sunsets forever cold and dead. Aura's pumpkin-spiced breeze, a callous whisper, means naught to my heart, blackened like the starless sky above. I shall not rest until I am before you. On hands and knees should I crawl to your throne, to place this jagged crown of sympathy upon your brow. May your blood-stained tears color these ripened leaves, and may they thaw my soul. Was but 2 seasons we shared, my love, before that black god claimed you so many years too soon. That little box was meant for shoes, not for you, my love. Above you now nothing but sod, atop me only cloud. Snowdrops and teardrops adorn your tumulus, a veil of frost your shroud. A cold white sheet laid out beside you, for me to lay my head. Soon, my love, I'll join thee, when autumn's spell is shed. You have been listening to Fall for You, narrated by Astrid Jeff.
You can find more of Dohai stuff over at betaworlds.net, moderntimes.net, on Twitter at Dohai666, or Instagram at betaworlds. Next up is Revelations by N.J. Boyer.
My finger hovered beside the trigger. Breathe. Be sure some decisions change the course of lives, the butterfly effect and all. Georgie's voice was so close to my ear that I could almost smell her pumpkin-spiced breath. I know what I'm doing, I assured her, me. What choice did I have? It wasn't like I could not pull the trigger. That door was already closed to me. I could miss, look down the barrel and pull the projectile just shy of its target, or to the side, sending the growing fog and cold soil flying. Yes, I could do that. If pride would allow. But no, too many people were watching, waiting. Come on, Nish. Her voice was now between the long arm and me. Make your choice. Either shoot or run. Which will it be? Stop it! I know what I'm doing! Sort of. I let it escape my lips in a quick, hurried stream. Do you? Or is that why you linger? Be sure, Flutterby. I smiled. Even now she was a true Libra, even in the fragments of dreams about her, persistent in her vacillation. I locked my teeth and adjusted my hold on the rifle. My target was only a mile down the scope. Breathe. I couldn't run. There was no desertion from this. Not now. Not here. Not with her. I loved her too much to bail on this. Breathe. The crosshairs found the target. Don't move. Let's make this quick. I tried to swallow. Breathe. Just take a breath, I scolded myself. The sky blazed orange with the failing sun. I had to take the shot or lose the prey. I slipped my finger over the trigger and slackened my jaw. Breathe in, breathe out. Bang! Pressures. Breathe in, breathe out. The target erupted. Tick, tick. A collective held breath behind me. I swallowed, waiting. Bang! Fireworks, all glorious blues and gold. Applause. It's a boy! My partner's gleeful voice. She had wanted a boy. The end. I'm N.J. Boyer. Thank you for listening to Revelations. If you enjoyed this story, you can find out more about me and my work at www.njboyerwriter.com. That's NJBOYER writer.com.
The next work is an untitled piece from Cheyenne Bramwell, poet and writer. Many of you know her from her prominent presence over on Twitter. Cheyenne is also narrating this work.
It was that time of year again. The summer heat was slowly dying, shop windows were filling with plastic ghosts, and everything faded into a dull kaleidoscope of oranges, reds, and browns. It was disgusting. I shut myself away, avoiding the coffee shops and scented pine cones piled outside of the grocery stores as much as I could. After all, in this new internet age, the groceries could come to me, and I wouldn't have to leave my house for weeks at a time. I could keep the scents of lavender and vanilla cycling through my nose as long as I was awake. Those were the easy parts. But every night, beneath the oils and candle wax, as my eyes drifted closed and my room faded around me, that smell would float in to take its place. I'd be sitting in my car beneath a bright canopy of orange, red, and brown. She was sitting next to me, glowing in the light from the window and laughing at her favorite joke. She clunked her styrofoam cup against mine before leaning in to kiss me. The blinding light hit us first, and a tangled mess of sensations flew by, Shattering glass, rushing wind, screeching tires, crunching metal bones snapping. Then I was hanging from the ceiling by my seatbelt. I looked, but she wasn't next to me. I screamed, but there was no response. There was only the smell of blood and pumpkin spice choking me. Every morning I wake up with a cough, forcing away the tightness of the seatbelt from my chest. And for a moment more, as I remember where I am, that scent lingers in the air around me. With a sigh, I stand up. It's time to light another candle. The end. I'm Cheyenne Bramwell. Thank you very much for listening to this. It was really fun to write, a fun short challenge, and I love those. And I really appreciate you listening and giving it a chance. You can find my other work on Twitter. I do a lot of microfiction and micropoetry at Poems by Cheyenne. And I also have a poetry blog, mostly daily, and you can find that on poemafterpoem.weebly.com.
And the last story we're going to feature in this first episode is by Anne Burgess, author Anne Burgess. It's titled Julia and is narrated by Erica Strensrud.
Julia. How long had it been? He strolled down the sidewalk. A cool, crisp breeze blew against his hair, causing it to fall in his face. He pushed it back. "You need a haircut," he heard Julia say. But she wasn't there. Lights from the houses along the way lit up the windows to guard those inside from the dark. Some had smiling jack-o'-lanterns on the porch to chase off the spooks of October. The lamps along the street cast shadows, triggering imaginations of passers-by. The autumn leaves crunched beneath his feet. He watched as they fell around him. Each tree had its own color: red, orange, and his favorite, gold, like her hair. He wondered if her thoughts were on him this fall. She sat in the window, watching the wind blow against the silhouetted trees on the lawn. At times the leaves came down in a soft shower of color upon the front porch. She would have to sweep the porch in the morning. The tea kettle whistled from the kitchen and she hurried to turn off the fire. She took her favorite cup from the cupboard and got out a box of pumpkin spice tea. She thought of her mother as she dropped the tea bag in the cup and poured water over it. The rich aroma brought back so many memories, so many haunting memories. She could picture him standing in the doorway the day after her mother's funeral. Hard to believe it had been a year ago. They had known one another all their lives, and she never dreamed she would be without him. When he announced he was leaving, she would have cried, but she knew it was the right thing for him to do. He had his own life now. She remembered his first year of college so many years ago. She was still in high school. She had cried. She remembered her mother's sound advice. "I know it's hard, but you and Eric were raised as brother and sister. Everyone that knows you looks at you in that way. Time will tell, and time will heal." But he wasn't her brother. He stopped outside a little coffee house and lingered for a moment. He stared through the plate glass window at the patrons sipping coffee and tea quietly, or chatting with friends. He wanted to go in, but hesitated. A man and woman stepped out laughing. The man accidentally bumped him and apologized. Eric nodded his head. "No problem." He went inside, walked up to the counter, and ordered a pumpkin spice latte. He hated pumpkin spice, but it always reminded him of Julia and the last time they were together. Had it been a year since her mother's death? The end. Julia was written by Anne Burgess and narrated by Erica Stensrud. I'm Erica Stensrud, and I'd like to thank you for listening to this story.
You can find Anne, her writing, and her books over at AnneParkerBurgess.com, on Facebook at Anne.Burgess.391, or at Twitter, AuthorAnne66. I want to thank you for tuning in to this first episode of The Stories We Tell. I hope you enjoyed the variety of stories that we've had to offer. Trust me, this show is growing by leaps and bounds in the future upcoming episodes. It's going to get pretty long, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Lifting all voices, empowerment through candor, supporting each other. I want to thank the following talented musicians for allowing us to use their music throughout the episode: Dr. Turtle, How the Night Came, David Hillowitz, and Livio Amato. This show is about our stories, the stories of us. These are the stories we tell. Until episode 2, this is Paul Sading wishing you well.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Stories We Tell. If you're interested in having one of your stories featured on the show, join us. We'd love to have you. The group is a supportive collective of professional and amateur writers and authors who have formed a community around Paul Sading's principles of empowerment through candor and positive community support. Everyone is welcome. You can find us by searching for Horrible Writing Writers Support on Facebook. If you enjoy the show, please rate or review it on your favorite podcatcher. It's a great way to help us, and every writer here appreciates your time. Be sure to check out the writers, authors, and narrators from the stories you enjoy. Most of them have other works of fiction and would love to have new fans find and enjoy it. The Stories We Tell is a Paul Sading production. The monthly challenge is The Genius Idea of Natalie Aiken, a writer and blogger from Australia. It is produced by Paul Sading, a fantasy and horror author, podcaster, and audio dramatist. You can find his fiction and nonfiction books along with his audio drama podcasts like Subject Found and Who Killed Julie at paulsading.com. The music you hear in the intro and outro each episode is protected under a Creative Commons license and is written and produced by Chan Redfield.